Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. This is the last video I will be uploading this week before I head off to the EGX show in Birmingham. I'll be back on Saturday. I don't normally upload a video on a Sunday, but to make up for the absence while I'm in Birmingham, I will be uploading a video on Sunday. In the meantime, there's this T30 battle on El Haloof that got sent in by Sir Bleep here that I wanted to share with you. Sir Bleep driving the American turreted Tier 9 tank destroyer, the T30. So, what do you need to know about the T30? Well, in a nutshell, turreted tank destroyer, very, very weak hull, very, very tough turret, and a big, big 750 alpha damage, 155mm derp gun. The front of the turret of this tank has 279mm of armour, and that's before you take into account the gun mantlet. Anything other than a Tier 10 tank destroyer firing at the front of the turret of the T30 is pretty much just wasting ammunition. If the T30 can get into a hull down position or can face hug its opponent, it's a very, very dangerous and difficult opponent to kill. If you don't have the gun depression to shoot down into the front of the hull, your only other option is to try to hit the commander's cupola, but it's not a particularly easy target to hit either. The T30's weaknesses are its inaccuracy. The gun is not very accurate at all. It also has a very slow reload. It only fires 2.86 rounds per minute without modifications like a gun rammer, and it's not particularly mobile. It turns very, very slowly. If you get the opportunity to outflank a T30, you're probably going to kill it, but you should always take the opportunity to blow his tracks off, because he does have a turret. And unlike the turret on the T110E4 or the T28 prototype, this turret rotates 360 degrees. The turret, however, turns very, very slowly. So T30 drivers who are being outflanked will often rotate the hull of the tank as well, and you can increase your chances of killing one of these things while taking the time to blow his tracks off before you attempt to outflank. So, bearing all that in mind, let's see how Sir Bleep does in his T30 in this Tier 10 match here on El Haloof. The T30 actually used to be the American Tier 10 heavy tank, with the T34 being the American Tier 9. It was actually a very, very good Tier 10 heavy tank, but it got hit with a nerf bat over and over and over, and ended up being a, well, not very good Tier 10 heavy tank. With the introduction of the T110E5 and the M109, the T30 got moved to Tier 9 as a tank destroyer, and the T34 became a Tier 8 premium heavy tank. And they both do pretty well in those positions, although you can still play the T30 like a heavy tank. It's well, if you were to think of the T30 as a sort of low health Tier 10 heavy tank with a very, very big gun, you probably wouldn't do too badly at all. I like the T30. I've had some monster games in this thing. I've had some absolutely terrible games in it as well. Sometimes the gun just will not hit what you're firing at. People who drive the ISU-152 and the Object 704 with the BL-10 know exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is a good gun. It's not as good as the BL-10, but it's certainly not bad. My damage record in the T30 is over 8,000 damage done with a crucial contribution and the Brothers in Arms, and whoa, I did not expect that to hit. Did not expect that to penetrate at all. The T57 Heavy, who is getting caned up there, by the way, absolutely obliterated. Yeah, he's just about done. Yeah, he's gone. So that's a valuable first kill. But you saw the T57 Heavy just pulled back right as Sir Bleep fired, and the shot seemed to strike the side of the turret. I expected that to bounce, but no, it penetrated. It was a low damage roll, but it was still over 600 damage. That's the thing with this gun. 750 alpha damage means that even on a low damage roll, you're going to cause somebody some serious problems. Of course, that can also get you into trouble. I've lost my T30 before when going after a Jagdpanzer E100, the Jaeger, who was on 650 health. And I thought, well, hey, the gun does 750 average damage. I'm going to reload before he will. Fired, did 632 damage. Jaeger reloaded and killed me. So don't ever count on doing 750 alpha damage with this gun, because it does like to troll you. And there's the accuracy, or rather lack of it. To be fair, he didn't let that completely aim before he fired at the Lerva, but the Lerva saw him, was pulling back, and he wasn't going to get the opportunity to hit his lower glacis unless he pulled the trigger. You might be sitting there thinking, well, with this much penetration, surely he could have taken the shot at the upper glacis. No. It's sloped, and the Lerva was pulling back, increasing the angle on the upper glacis. That would have bounced. This thing also, by the way, has very, very good gun depression. Now, he's climbing a steep slope here, but look at that. No, 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 definitely not. T-28 prototype down there, Lerva, Jagdpanzer E100, all manner of tanks just sitting there waiting for him to crest the ridge and expose the 102mm hull armour on this thing. It does have very good gun depression, but it's not quite good enough for that. There he's spotted. There is a T-28 prototype sitting in the open, right down there. He's just outside of view range. And there he takes a couple of hits, but his tracks eat them all. There's one hit, seemed to hit the front of his hull. That was the T-28 prototype, and he's right down. There he goes, he's fired again. Watch as Sir Bleep just lines up the gun sight with the direction that that shot came from, as indicated by the bounce indicator, fires. He hit the T-28 prototype. You didn't see... There he is. If you're firing at a target that you can't actually see, you can always tell whether you hit or not by whether or not you see an explosion. If you see the shot impact on the ground, then you missed. And there's the accuracy or inaccuracy of this T7 gun once more. Perfectly fully aimed shot at a T-28 prototype, and it just sailed right over the top of this turret. That's the thing about the T-30. Don't forget that it used to be a heavy tank. If you insist on playing it like a tank destroyer, sitting at the back and taking the long range shots, you're going to be disappointed and frustrated because the gun just isn't very accurate at all. I mean, yes, it's got lots of penetration, and yes, you're probably still going to hit and just power your way through the armour or whatever you're shooting at, but it used to be a heavy tank. You can still play it like a heavy tank. And depending on the circumstances, you probably should be playing it as a sort of a mix between a heavy and a TD, which is exactly what Sir Bleep is forced to do right now, as that E100 comes around the corner, almost kills this KV-4, poor guy, only has the 122mm gun, and then gets a bit of surprise T-30 right in the flank. But he's not alone. That's a Jaegeru. And it's not just a Jaegeru. This is actually where this replay starts getting very, very silly indeed. KV-4 doing what he can, trying to hit the lower glacis of that E100, but the E100 is not a complete idiot. He's got it angled, and even with 276mm of penetration, the lower glacis of the E100 angled like that is a tough target. E100 obviously waiting to reload. The Jaegeru doesn't have those problems. As he comes around the corner, he straightens out just enough that Sir Bleep can penetrate, and then with the Jaegeru about to fire, he closes in and takes it right on the chin. Jaegeru fails to penetrate his gun mantlet and turret front. E100 is reloaded, he's looking for the shot. Sir Bleep, understandably, loads the premium ammunition, and with that, he can put one through the front of the upper casement of the Jaegeru. Jaegeru is trying to get the gun depression to shoot down into the hull. He waggles the turret. His tracks take a hit from, I think, the E100. Here comes the T-32. And this is where things get very, very silly indeed. He kills the Jaegeru while the T-32 and the E100, what are they doing? Well, there's a friendly T-54 suddenly come around the back, and he basically commits suicide by ramming into the rear of the E100. But the death of the T-54 has distracted the E100 and the T-32, which allows Sir Bleep to reload and finish off the E100. So he's killed two of them, but he's still outnumbered 2-1 because the T-54 brought an AMX-3090 with him. But for some bizarre reason, the AMX-3090 does not take this opportunity to get around behind Sir Bleep's T-30. Maybe he's reloading. Well, it doesn't matter. The T-32 needed all the help he could get. Sir Bleep didn't know he was reloading. If the AMX-3090 had taken the opportunity... No, that's not how you do... Oh, no. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. It's a little late, but he does eventually try to get around the rear. Unfortunately, Sir Bleep knows what he's doing, and he's parked the back of this big fat tank destroyer up against a solid mountain wall, so the 1390 can't get around him, and he really should be running away by now because he's taken far too long. Sir Bleep is going to reload. He's not blowing his tracks off, so that 18 degree per second turret rotation isn't really a problem because he's able to swing the tank around using the hull traverse as well, and just look at the graveyard of wrecked tanks around this T-30. How is he still alive? Unbelievable. So, let's just count the medals for a second here, shall we? Let's pull up the post-battle results screen. We've got Hand of God, Duelist, Fighter, Fire for Effect, Shellproof, Ace Tanker as well obviously, We've got steel wall and we've got high caliber. High caliber because he did 5,449 damage in that game for 1,363 base experience with 7 epic medals and an ace tanker badge. And he did the lion's share of that damage at point blank range in a tank destroyer. 715 damage was done at a distance in excess of 300 meters. That was the shot at the T-28 prototype. Everything else was right in the face of the enemy. He didn't have an awful lot of choice. It was forced on him, but you can see why the T-30 used to be a tier 10 heavy tank. In fact, based on the results of that game, you could make a fairly convincing argument that the T-30 is still and always has been a tier 10 heavy tank. Look at the damage blocked by armour. 3,700. This thing only has 102mm of hull armour. I mean, and that's at the front. I think it's 76mm at the side. 4 enemy tanks at point blank range, and every single one of them kept trying to just put shots right through the 279mm of frontal turret armour. Hooray for stupid enemies! Without them, we couldn't get results like this. So that was Sir Bleep in the T-30. I hope you enjoyed that replay. It certainly amused me, and that is it. Until I get back from the EGX show at Birmingham. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm back on Saturday, and so I'm going to break with tradition and upload a video on Sunday this week in order to make up for all the time lost while I was having fun at the EGX show. In the meantime, folks, as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.